Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. On this episode, I'm going to be working out of Vivian Howard's This Will Make It Taste Good cookbook. And we're going to be using the herbaceous that we made previously. I'll link that up here. And yes, I'm a little bit on the injured list today, but that's okay. This is a low cook recipe, and I should not have to use this hand. So, we're going to be making chef mix. So this is her take on Chex Mix. So we like to have little snacks like that around during the holidays, which are coming up oh so fast. And so I thought we would go ahead and make this. Now I had my herbaceous that I made earlier in the year in the freezer. So I've let that, cool. I'd let that warm up so it is no longer frozen. And the first thing we need to do is mix that up into sort of a sauce that's going to go on everything. And so I need to add to that some kosher salt. Most of this stuff is pre-salted, but generally this is a really salty mix. So, it'll be fine. And then we're adding a little bit of unsalted butter to this. Now, so this is quite a bit of olive oil, but we're also adding butter, and we're going to whisk this. She said to do this in a bowl, but I already had it in the measuring cup to make sure I had gotten enough. So there we go. That's going to be pretty cold, but it'll be fine. Now I need a really, really big bowl. The one I wanted is in use for other things at the moment. So we've got the deep one here, and I'm going to be using this. I don't need this anymore. I don't need salt anymore. So the first thing I'm going to put in here is my Chex. She said you can Chex cereal. You can use whatever kind you like. I would not suggest the cinnamon Chex as my son suggested this morning. I wouldn't suggest any flavored Chex, but, rice, corn, wheat, whatever you like. I chose corn. And then Cheez-Its. So these are just plain Cheez-Its. We have nuts of your choice. So I decided to go with, I've got about half peanuts that were already salted and roasted. And then I have some pecans that were not. So we're putting both of those in there. These are some roughly broken saltine crackers. Just regular old saltines. And then some roughly broken bagel chips. These were the hardest things for me to find. They were supposed to be at my usual grocery store, but they didn't have any that I could find. So I had to go to a different grocery store, and then they only had a few bags. But they sell flavored ones of those. I would suggest going with the just salted ones. And I was really close to just making my own. All right. And now, all we do is put this in here and mix it up really, really well. There we go. She says, don't be afraid to break things a little bit. So don't be too gentle. I've mixed that up and I'm happy with it. So now we need to put it on a baking sheet. Got my largest baking sheet here, and I'm just going to dump it all out on there. Wasn't planning on getting it on the counter, but and I'm going to spread it out as best I can. And my oven is heated to 325 degrees. So it's a, sort of moderate, a little bit low oven. And we're going to put it in there for, let's see, 8 minutes, and then we're going to take it out, toss it around, and we're going to put it in for another 6 minutes. In the end, you want it to be crisp and toasty. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and I probably won't show you what it looks like when it comes out the first time, because you just cook it for 8 minutes. And then I'm going to toss it around, but I will show you what it looks like when I decide it's done and toasty and crisp. So we'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. Okay, so after 6 minutes, I took it out and I decided it was not quite done yet, but I put it in for another 5, and I think I'm going to call this done. It looks a little browner than before. They're not going to be crispy right out of the oven. In my experience, things like this need to cool off a bit before they actually get crispy. So we're going to let it cool for a little bit and before we package it all up and see how it tastes. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make chef mix from This Will Make It Taste Good by Vivian Howard. This used herbaceous, which we have made previously. It's a little bit like pesto. A lot of fresh basil in it. And so it used a lot of that for the seasoning, for the actual seasoning on this. And it's like Chex Mix, of course, although it only uses one kind of Chex and it's not like the main, well, I guess it is kind of the main component. It's the thing you use the most of, but there's lots of other bits mixed in here as well. She says that it is better the next day, and I do have to agree with her. This has been, I put it, after it cooled off, I put it in, a zip top bag, and it's been a few days right now. It's still perfectly fine. She says it'll last for up to about 2 weeks in an airtight container, not in the refrigerator. Just on the counter is fine. And I do think that the flavor improves over, overnight. Give it a little time. The flavor improves. It tastes very much like basil. I'm not getting as much, a little bit, but not as much of the cilantro as I did when we were just using the herbaceous sort of fresh. But it's a really good option to sort of fancy up the party mix if you're having holiday gatherings and you have some of this in your freezer, like I do. You can go ahead and make this. You could probably also just use pesto if you have that, but it would be very similar. Everybody has enjoyed this. Everybody in my family. We're lucky there's still some left, honestly, for me to taste, because it's been several days now since we made it. And I almost didn't have this bowl as my children passed, tried to take more and more out. But we very much enjoyed it, and I hope you guys do. I hope you try it. If you do, let me know in the comments down below what you think. And if you enjoyed watching me make this, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else next week.